Welcome to another class breakdown here at 24/7 Sports. I am National Analyst Tom Loy alongside National Analyst Blair Angulo and Director of Scouting Andrew Ivins. Alabama Crimson Tide, one of the top overall classes in 2026. Let's dive into it. Andrew, we'll start with you. Give me your ready-to-play guy on the commit list headed to Tuscaloosa.
Xavier Crowell, the running back, Tom. This is my early pick, right? If we had to make a freshman of the year forecast, I think it's Crowell. The Crimson Tide are pacing for their worst rushing season statistically in like over a decade. They can't run the football. Xavier Crowell, I think he's a plug and play, fix the issue. Now, this is a kid that reclassified, but man, he's ran for over 5,000 yards during his 3-year high school career there in the Yellowhammer State. I think he's got everything. He is the total package, the vision, the power, the burst, his creativity. He can power inside the tackles. He can bounce runs on the outside, cut back, and find the end zone. He's got multiple full player hurdles on the highlight reel. I'm a huge fan of this kid. And again, usually with these reclassifications, you kind of have a bit of a question mark as they embark on their collegiate career. That is not the case with Xavier Crowell, averaging well over 13 yards per carry in 2025. I think this guy's going to step in, and I think he's going to be part of that committee. He is ready to go. 5'11", 215 pounds, 4.56 in the 40-yard dash. A lot to like about Xavier Crowell.
Drew, Tom, give me tight end Max Sutter, the number one player in the state of Illinois, 6'5", 230, checks off that box from a physical standpoint. I think he's going to be able to see the field early in Tuscaloosa next year. And then you think about their depth chart at tight end. Josh Cuevas is on his way out. He's a senior. They've got two former four-star freshmen in Caleb Edwards and Marshall Pritchett. So that's one of those things where you plug in another true freshman, and he's got an opportunity there to really make an impact. This is a player who has been able to play different positions at the high school level: quarterback, edge rusher, linebacker, receiver, tight end, you name it. Also plays basketball on the hardwood and is a really good athlete. When you think about what he's able to do downfield, up the seam, and then the blocking component, which is huge in that Alabama offense, I think Max Sutter has a realistic shot to see the field early and make an impact for the Crimson Tide.
I'm actually going with you, Ivins, on this one. Top 247 running back, Xavier Crowell, an elite guy. Nothing about his game that I don't like. He can truly do it all at such a high level. I mean, he is the body, the frame, the build. He is built for the SEC. Over 2,000 yards and 30 scores this year. Just a tremendous talent. I always see our guy Brett Greenberg blowing him up on Twitter. It's fun to watch, man. He's got future All-American written all over him. Let's look at the quarterback of the class for Alabama. They actually have two, Jet Tamala and Taden Kava. Ivins, take this however you want. Break down the quarterback situation there in Tuscaloosa.
Well, Tom, I just think the long-term outlook of that quarterback room is going to be one of the best in all of college football. We'll see what happens with Ty Simpson. A lot of his name showing up a lot in the first rounds of the most recent NFL mock drafts, but they got Keelan Russell waiting in the wings, former 5-star. We've seen a little bit of him, a lot to like. I think, everyone outside of the recruiting world is learning about Keelan Russell. So what do they do this cycle? They go and get Jet Tamala, flip him from Iowa State. And the more I've watched Jet, the more I've studied Jet, the more I've seen this entire quarterback class, I think he's one of the best when it comes to layering the football, changing speeds. I mean, he is a guy that wins from the pocket. And what's crazy and what should have a lot of Alabama fans excited about Jet is the fact that turn on his basketball highlights. This guy can dunk, right? He can finish above the rim. Hasn't been asked to use his legs all that much there in Nebraska. But this is a kid that he can get into rhythm. He can make all the throws. I thought at the Elite 11 finals over the summer, he is someone who got better and better with each throw. If you take him on day 1 to day 3, it looked like a completely different prospect. He has won his last 22 starts there in Nebraska. And during that stretch, he's thrown 97 touchdowns to just 7 interceptions. So, I don't know when we're going to see Jet, just kind of given how rich that quarterback room is. But, man, this guy kind of reminds me a little bit of Daniel Jones, who, is making a lot of headlines in the NFL this season.
And it's a 2 quarterback class. They also have Taden Kava, the 3-star prospect from the state of Utah, originally from Hawaii. So Alabama has a rich history, obviously, of recruiting players from the state of Hawaii. They also have a 2027 quarterback committed in Trent Seaborn, who's originally from the Aloha State. But an interesting backstory with Kava is that he first started to get offers as a baseball player. Oregon was actually one of the first ones to jump in there with a baseball offer. The former Washington coaches that are now at Alabama went out to Honolulu to see Taden Kava throw. They were actually there to go see a guy by the name of Jaren Keave Sangapolutele. They made a couple of drive arounds and got to see Taden. And I think that memory bank allowed them to bring him back on campus when it looked like they did want 2 quarterbacks in this 2026 recruiting cycle. Kava goes to campus, goes to Tuscaloosa and camps with the Crimson Tide, gets the offer. And I think the rest is history. This is a player who's very physical. I'm not sure there's a lot of upside there from a physical standpoint because he looks like a finished product, but he's going to be able to lower his shoulder when he needs to. He's heady. He's tough. He does a lot of running, whether that's inside or outside the pocket. I really like what he's able to do in distributing the football. I don't know if he's going to blow you away with his arm talent, even though he does have that pitcher background, but this is a guy that you fill into your quarterback room and hope to develop. I think that's what Alabama's doing. That's what they see in him. And I think the potential is there for him to make an impact at some point down the road, maybe not immediately, but Taden Kava just won a 5A state championship there in the state of Utah at Orem, a school that has produced the likes of Puka Nakua and Noah Sewell and Kingsley Suamataia. So he left his mark there in the Beehive State on his way to Tuscaloosa.
Just big picture, I love the quarterback room in Tuscaloosa when you pair. Obviously, you brought up Keelan Russell, but you got Tamale, you got Kava, they got Seaborn coming in 27. I think they're the favorite to land Elijah Haven, the number 2 overall player in 2027. So clearly, these guys are all competitive. They're ready to battle against each other. And what a special room. I remember seeing Tamale with our guy Cooper Patagna in Nashville at the Elite 11 and was blown away. Then we got to see Kava at the opening finals. And no, he doesn't have the most clean mechanics, but man, he's got a big arm and he's a winner. So again, upstairs, they all got it. So really, really good group headed to Tuscaloosa. Let's look at the underrated player, Ivans. Give me somebody to keep an eye on that might even outperform their current ranking.
Tom, the kid has continued to grow on me. Jamarian Matthews out of the state of Georgia. I think the name of the game with him is versatility, right? Originally in our rankings as an edge rusher, we moved him to the defensive line. I think he can play up and down the line. He can shade up. He can stand up in certain situations. He has been awesome as a senior. And I think the X factor with Jamarian Matthews is the engine. It's like he's got that Duramax, right? He looks like a work truck. He just continues to bring it snap after snap. To me, he looks like a guy that you just watch an SEC game on the weekends and you see a bunch of Jamarian Matthews running around. I think this guy is going to have a very, very nice career there in Tuscaloosa. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's ready to go sooner rather than later just because of that versatility.
My underrated guy is top 247 tight end Max Sutter. He's number 5 at his position in the country, so he's obviously well thought of. But I just think I think a lot of the buzz is around Ian Premer going to Notre Dame, Mark Bowman headed to USC. I think Max Sutter is a guy that we could eventually see see his name called first in the NFL draft at his position down the road. Big time athlete, dual sport guy, a do-it-all tight end, and a very willing blocker, which is not something you see every day. So I think as he continues to fill out, get better, I think he's going to be really, really special, which actually pairs nicely with what they brought in 25. So let's move on to just sum up the whole class, the biggest takeaway. Ivans, what stands out for you with this class in Alabama?
Well, boys, I'm embarrassed because all we've done is talk about offensive guys, and I love this defensive class. And I think if you talk with people there in Tuscaloosa, they would point to the defensive class as well. Look, my biggest takeaway, this class has future day 1 picks on defense. And it wasn't too long ago, I was wondering, okay, the Built by Bama slogan, is that still going to be a thing? Saban's gone, DeBoer, is he going to be able to get these dudes on defense? The answer is Yes. All right. Xavier Griffin, 5-star linebacker. I love him. Reminds me of Jahad Campbell. Jordan Edmonds, 5-star cornerback. Reminds me of Will Johnson. Jira Edwards, top 247 safety. I think he's another Malachi Starks. Zion Gibson, he might have the cleanest quarterback tape in the entire class because no one throws the football towards his way, right? He is locked down in coverage. I think they got some elite guys on that side of the ball. I talked a little bit about Jamarian Matthews. How about Nolan Wilson? I think he's one of the biggest lottery tickets in the entire class of 2026. Xavier Crowell is the guy to know on offense. On defense, I mean, just close your eyes and pick a name. Good chance you're going to see them playing on Sundays at some point down the line. I think Courtney Morgan, the general manager, Kalen DeBoer, that entire staff, they reloaded on defense, and that's going to pay off big time down the line.
Drew, you mentioned the 5-stars in Xavier Griffin and Jordan Edmonds. They're from the state of Georgia. And I think what they're able to do in this class is indicative of what we can expect. Kalen DeBoer and his staff, general manager Courtney Morgan and his ties on the West Coast, we wondered, are they going to be able to recruit in the South? Well, the answer is yes. Like you mentioned, they had one player from the state of California in this class. That was Sam Utu, who we touched on earlier. Just one player in the state of Utah. That would be Taden Kava, the quarterback. So that's 2 from the West Coast. They had 8 in the 25 class, which was their first true recruiting class at Alabama. 7 in the state of California last cycle. So they kind of went into a well that they were very familiar with, which you would understand from a recruiting standpoint. This was a completely different blueprint now for Alabama, and I think they nailed it.
At the time of this recording, 3 of the top 5 players are headed in-state are headed to play for Alabama. They didn't land a single guy in 2025 from the top 10 of our rankings. So it's a big shout out to the job they're doing in the Yellowhammer State. Alabama buttoned up the in-state recruiting. Number 1 guy is going to head to Oregon, and Anthony Tank Jones. That's a miss, but all in all, my big takeaway is that Alabama did a much better job in-state than they did last year, and that's what you want to see moving forward. But all in all, we're talking about the number 2 overall class in 2026. Special group headed to Tuscaloosa. For Andrew Ivins, Blair Angulo, I'm Tom Loy. Thank you all for watching.